Episode 61, Vengeance for Lavaria. By the time Bowser Jr. found the airship, he felt well ready to collapse. He had to go on, though. The battle was far from over, even though Ludwig had been defeated. Dad still needed him. The airship was covered in dust. It probably hadn't been used for years. Junior found it tucked away in the corner of a hangar, emptied of all the fancier airship Mark II battleships. The triple-masted ship brought back memories. These ships had been the meat of his childhood. He had probably been only about 11, the first time he had been given one to command. He had seen probably hundreds of them destroyed at the hands of Mario. Objectively, it was a far worse craft than the Mark II. The battleships were better armed, better shielded, and larger so that they could carrying more troops. But nothing could beat the feeling of wind on your hair as you cruised through the sky on an airship's deck, on a happy flight to Toad Town to cause mischief and mayhem. Piloting the airship was more awkward than he remembered. The last time he had been behind the wheel of one of these, he had still been pretty tiny. The helm had been designed for piloting by an ordinary Koopa troop, which was about the same size as he had been as a teen, but now, as a fully grown, noble-blooded Koopa, the wheel only came up to his knee. He had to sit down to pilot it comfortably. Still, Bowser Jr. remembered the controls as if it had only been yesterday. Within minutes, the familiar sound of the three propellers whirring and the rocket engines roaring filled the air as the Koopa Prince guided it out of the hangar bay. The sky was strange, Bowser Jr. realized, strange and beautiful. It shone with a sort of mystical glow, and reminded Bowser Jr. of outer space. Not the normal parts of outer space, where it was just a bunch of black, but the real breathtaking spots, the nebulas and star clusters. Bowser Jr. watched it as he guided the airship towards the Mushroom Kingdom fleet. He would have liked to sit there and watch it for a while, but for now there was no time. He had already been delayed far too much. He hoped Dad and the others weren't too worried about it. Bowser Jr. walked onto the bridge of Peach's ship. He had parked the airship right next to it. Almost as soon as he entered the room, Lemmy, who, while considerably larger than his child self, was still much smaller than the average noble Koopa, nearly slammed into him.
"Junior!"
he exclaimed.
"You're okay. You're really okay. We were so worried about you. Wendy and Morton said you got shot down."
"Yeah?" Bowser Jr. nodded.
"I was unlucky enough to run into Ludwig, too. That was a fight." "That's my boy,"
Bowser chuckled.
"Not letting his big brother beat him down." "Well, that's not exactly true,"
Bowser Jr. replied as his legs gave out and he quickly caught himself with his arm.
"Junior!"
Bowser gasped.
"Quick!"
Peach exclaimed.
He seems really hurt, get him a 1-up."
Suddenly Toadette was beside him, offering him a green-capped mushroom. Bowser Jr. popped it in his mouth, chewed, and swallowed. An indescribably refreshing feeling washed through him, as all his pain faded away and he felt as if he had had a good, long rest. Bowser Jr. got back up on his feet and wiped his mouth.
Thanks, Peach."
He smiled. Peach returned the smile. She was such a kind person, wasn't she? After Bowser Jr. received the mandatory load of praise and being worried over by his family, Peach addressed the people on the bridge in a stern voice, the Mario brothers flanking her on both sides. In addition to the Koopalings, minus Ludwig and Larry, of course, there was Prince Peasley of the Bean Bean Kingdom, King K. Rool of the Kremlings, that blue Yoshi named Cobal who was Luigi's protege, and a stern-faced fire bro named Strike who had a long scar going down his chin.
Our mission is simple,
Peach said. The huge bridge window was behind her, providing a wide view of the starlit sky, the massive command ship, and the hundreds of ships fighting in the air.
Using the airship Bowser Jr. so graciously provided for us, we make our way to the enemy leaders and take them out. With a loss of leadership, our enemies will be confused and easy to drive away. I will stay behind and command the Mushroom Kingdom forces against the enemy fleet. The remnants of Koopa High Command have agreed to work with me, in addition to the remaining Neo-Empire forces. We will all stand together against this common enemy, for the sake of all of our kingdoms.
Bowser Jr. smiled.
I'll get all right. Yeah!
Bowser roared.
They're in for a dousing of fire. I won't let anything ever happen to you again, Peach.
Mario vowed.
After this battle's done, we're going to rebuild the Mushroom Kingdom and raise a family together, just like we always wanted. And, Luigi.
Mario turned to his brother and glared.
You managed to get enough courage to rally the whole Mushroom Kingdom against the Empire. So don't you wimp out on telling a certain someone how you feel.
Luigi blushed bright red and chuckled.
Yeah, brother.
He said.
You're right. Hey, what are we waiting for?
Bowser said, grinning and crossing his arms.
Are we going to stand around here saying cheesy things for a few more hours, or are we going to bring the pain to some third-rate world conquerors?
Peach smiled.
We're going to save the world, Bowser. Any amount of fire breath is appreciated.
As the group made their way through one of the battleship's corridors, heading for a door leading to one of the gunner platforms where they could board Junior's airship, Junior sighed and looked at Bowser.
Hey, Dad. What, son? All warmed up for the big fight after dealing with Ludwig? Want some fire-breathing pointers from the best? No.
Bowser Jr. replied, looking at the floor. He felt uncomfortable saying this, but his father deserved to know. He still hated thinking about it, himself.
I have something to tell you, Dad. It's about Mom.
Bowser's eyes narrowed.
Why? Yeah. Cammy. She told me. That's why she's been gone for all this time. She's been looking into it. Mom. These 7 Stars people targeted her because they wanted to get to you. The reason why she's not around anymore. It's because of...
Bowser tightened his hand into a fist.
Thank you, Junior.
Bowser replied. His face was tightening with rage. Bowser Jr., who had barely known his mother, could not even imagining what was going through his dad's mind.
I'm going to annihilate these people.
When Bowser Jr. and the others arrived on the airship, they were greeted by a strange guest. Larry Koopa sat on the ship's railing, his arms crossed and a grin in his face.
Hey, guys.
He said. Mario and Luigi instantly got into fighting poses.
Hey, chill out.
Larry protested, throwing his arms up.
I'm not here to fight. Then why are you here, Larry?
Bowser Jr. asked, glaring at his brother.
You betrayed us, just like Ludwig. A calculated decision.
Larry replied, as if that justified anything.
Come on, guys. I've betrayed you before. Backstabbing's part of my nature. That doesn't make it okay.
Iggy murmured.
Anyways. I've got myself into a world of trouble and I've got no one else to turn to. If you can't beat the enemy alone, you ought to do it with friends, right? Come on, Mario,
Luigi said, giving Larry a suspicious look.
We can't trust him. Hey,
Larry said.
Come on. I've betrayed Ludwig, I've betrayed 7 stars. Who else would I betray? Do I want to end up on the streets? For once. You can trust me. I want to beat the Grand Star and the rest of those losers. It's a personal matter of honor now.
Bowser Jr. stepped onto the deck of the ship, looking Larry hard in the eye.
Make one wrong move,
he growled,
and I'll make you wish 7 stars had dealt with you.
The propellers whirred as Bowser Jr. brought the airship away from Peach's warship and into the air. His family stood firm on the deck, next to the Mario brothers and the others. As Bowser Jr. took the ship higher and higher, the sounds of battle echoed around him. There were Koopa battleships and Mushroom battleships fighting side by side, broadsiding enemy warships. Paratroopas and Paragoombas flew through the air, tangled in combat with others in their race who were dressed in 7 stars outfits, and star shrooms zipped past them, launching bombs to destroy dropships' huge rotors. The Koopa dominance, resolute as an unbreakable floating fortress despite the continuous damage it was taking, fired death from each of its countless turrets at any enemy who would dare come near. Even though the enemy had caught them by surprise and was using superior weaponry, the combined forces were managing to come together and push the enemy back. Junior gripped the spoked wheel tightly. The entire world was counting on them. Bringing the ship even higher, the airship flew so that it was no longer underneath the 7 Stars command ship and was instead flying next to the huge orange dome. The sky was a beautiful, shining canvas of stars, as if all the wonder of the galaxy had settled over Koopa Central. High above the city, a blinding gold light shone, and in the center of it, Bowser Jr. could make out a vaguely palace-like shape that seemed familiar to him.
Mamma mia!
Mario suddenly exclaimed, pointing at the light from his place at the front of the ship.
Luigi! Is that the Comet Observatory? Looks like it, brother,
Luigi replied.
Rosalina? What could she be doing here? If she's coming to help us, she should have let us know. Wait! Rosalina!
Cobal exclaimed, looking as if he had just realized something terrible.
What? What does this Rosalina look like? She's a human,
Luigi replied.
Tall, blonde, and she usually wears a blue dress. Then she's involved in all of this,
Cobal said.
I can't explain, but I know she's involved in it. And she might not be on our side. What do you mean, Cobal?
Luigi asked with concern.
Nothing,
Cobal replied, shaking her head.
But I have a feeling, Luigi. I've been seeing things, hearing things, for a long time now. This Rosalina woman wants to do something. And to me, it doesn't sound good. Great, this is the last thing we need to worry about,
Bowser growled.
That Space Queen was powerful enough to destroy more than half my fleet the last time we met.
Bowser Jr. remembered it only too well. The Comet Observatory had smashed through the armada that had surrounded their fortress in the center of the universe, bringing an end to his dad's plan of intergalactic domination.
All right, get ready,
he said, pointing his airship's nose towards the observatory.
That's where we're headed. If Rosalina's fallen down a dark path, I'll bring her back,
Mario vowed.
That's a promise. Purple star.
A shy guy with an orange visor over his mask glanced up from his control console at Skulls, who was standing next to the command seat, arms crossed.
We've got a small vessel moving past our ship. We believe it to be headed for the Comet Observatory, sir.
Skulls smiled.
Shoot it down,
he said calmly.
No one may disturb the Grand Star.
As Junior flew up the sloping orange metallic surface of the command ship, rocket engines roaring at full power, huge gun turrets rose from the command ship's smooth surface, firing bronze-colored bolts of energy towards the ship. One struck and the ship rocked, nearly spilling Prince Peasley and Lemmy out.
Hey! Look out, Junior, I think they're onto us,
Lemmy exclaimed.
I can see that,
Bowser Jr. hissed, gritting his teeth as he abruptly spun the wheel to the left, jerking the ship around as a laser streaked past them. Everyone grabbed onto something as he sent the ship flying forward at top speed, the bottom of the hull nearly scraping the command ship's orange-colored surface as it flew in zigzags, dodging turrets that were launching huge blasts of light towards them with energized booms that echoed through the sky.
Ha!
Bowser laughed as he launched one of his fireballs towards that blast, causing them to collide and explode in midair.
Nobody shoots down my ship when I'm around.
Mario summoned a fiery hammer and batted a laser away while shouting,
Watch my back, bro. I am on it, Mario.
Luigi cried back, summoning a lightning hammer and deflecting a laser with a powerful swing. As Junior continued moving the ship further and further up the command ship's curving dome, everyone joined in, the other Koopalings meeting laser fire with magic blasts, Cobal eating lasers and spitting them back out, K. Rool sucking the lasers into his blunderbuss and launching them back to damage the cannons where they came from. The Comet Observatory shone above them with heavenly light, as the airship drew closer. Closer. Closer.
Purple star, they're evading all our fire,
a shy guy crew member reported in a frantic voice.
At this rate, they'll...
Skulls growled and clenched his fist.
Must I do everything myself?
The light of the Comet Observatory shone in Bowser Jr.'s eyes. Somehow, he knew that it was the center of everything. That Antonio, the man who had killed his mother and who was responsible for all these horrible things, waited there. The Koopa Empire might endure, or it might fall. But what really mattered was the Koopa Kingdom. The homeland of the Koopas, which his family had ruled since the days before the sealing of the Thousand-Year Door. This organization threatened everything, the very order and balance of the world. Bowser Jr. gripped the helm so hard his knuckles turned white, urging the airship forward towards that tantalizing heavenly glow. Suddenly something seemed to latch onto the airship and grab it. It stopped short, knocking everyone down, unable to move despite all the power Junior poured into the engine. What was going on? He couldn't have. Cobal ran to the back of the airship behind Junior and glanced down.
It's him. The guy from Stoneshell Prison. Skulls. He was in Kami's vision too, wasn't he?
In spite of himself, Bowser Jr. rose to his feet and left the helm, joining Cobal at the far end of the ship. There was a Koopa troop standing on the command ship, dressed in a spotless white suit with an antique-looking white fedora, holding out his arm as if to grasp the ship while his right eye glowed a brilliant orange. Skulls Fortescue. Kami had told him about him. Antonio's personal assassin and lieutenant, who had beat their mother half to death before allowing the Grand Star to finish her. Rage filled Junior's body as the others joined him.
I lay stomp that Koopa and kick his shell to the Bean Kingdom.
Mario exclaimed.
You with me, Luigi?
No, suddenly Bowser Jr. knew what he had to do. He was powerful, sure, but not as strong as the Mario brothers and not as strong as his father, not with the new Dark Star potion.
Dad, Mario, Luigi. Leave this guy to me. I'll help.
Lemmy instantly exclaimed.
This guy's evil. You all know what he did to Mom. Yeah.
Iggy nodded.
You with me, everyone? You bet.
Morton nodded. Roy growled, clenching his fist so hard it must be hurt.
Ya no, I'm certainly not what you would call a
nice Koopa.
If you called me a bully, I'd even be pleased. But if I get a chance to get at anybody who hurt Mom, well, they're about to learn just how brutal this bad boy can be.
Larry chuckled.
Well, I've fought the other two leaders, the third one can't be so bad, right?
Luigi faced them, relief in his face.
Thank you, Koopalings,
he said.
The Mushroom Kingdom is in your debt. Ha, funny to hear that coming from you.
Lemmy giggled.
Junior,
Bowser said, as the Koopa Prince met his father's look. Bowser's red eyes looked almost sad, and his brutish face held a kind of emotion not often seen on it.
You stay alive, all right? Remember, you're going to be king one day. And you better be a fire-breathin', shell-slammin', toad-scarin' good one, too. I will, Dad.
Bowser Jr. replied, giving Bowser one last look.
I promise.
As Luigi took the wheel, Bowser Jr. leapt from the airship towards the command ship's orange surface. As he fell, he glanced back up at the ship. He could see the rainbow glow of the Dreamstone shining in Mario's back pocket. The one-up had erased any exhaustion he had felt from his battle with Ludwig. He was ready. As the airship flew away into the air towards the Comet Observatory, the Koopalings faced down skulls. The top of the command ship was curved, not so much that the Koopalings stood on uneven footing, but enough so skulls stood above them. The Koopa smiled at them, sweeping his hat in a bow.
Ah, the grandchildren of King Morton,
he said in a charming voice, as if this was a pleasant meeting and not the beginning of a brutal battle.
I believe this is the first time we've met face to face, yes? I am Skulls Fortescue, the Purple Star. I knew your mother, did you know? Yes.
Bowser Jr. hissed, blowing steam from his nostrils.
Cammy told us everything. We know how you attacked her, hurt her all for your boss plan? Do you have no sympathy for anyone? Our mother never hurt anyone. Little boy, sympathy gets you nowhere.
Skulls laughed.
When I was younger than you were the days you fought the Mario brothers, I had to fight tooth and claw to survive. I don't have the luxury of a kingdom to come back to, after the war is done. All I know how to do is fight and kill, so, if you please, I will continue doing that to the best of my ability.
Skulls covered his left eye with his hand and then quickly drew the hand away, so that the eye was now glowing orange. Both of his eyes were glowing now.
As an acknowledgement of your powers, I will hold nothing back. I need to wrap this fight up fast so I can deal with the others, after all.
He raised both hands, his face illumined by the light of his glowing eyes.
Nobody will interfere with the Grand Star's ambition. Yeah, we'll see about that.
Bowser Jr. replied. With that, he sprang towards Skulls, fist raised to smash the smaller Koopa with all his power. Skulls smiled and flicked his wrist, and Bowser Jr. felt as if some kind of invisible rock had struck him in the chest. It sent him flying through the air, crashing into Lemmy and causing both Koopas to fall to the ground. As soon as Bowser Jr. fell, Iggy launched a magic blast at Skulls, who quickly slashed upwards with his hand, raising a chunk of the metallic sloped ground upward as a shield that the magic blast smashed harmlessly against. Even before Iggy's blast had struck the barrier, Skulls had already raised both hands, pushing back against Morton and Roy, who were charging at him from the right and left, the telekinetic push ignoring both of the Koopas' massive size and knocking them away as easy as if they had been made of paper. Skulls smiled and fell down. A blue enchanted fireball struck him in the back. Larry loomed over him, smirking as Skulls rolled down the slope.
"Boy, I love teleportation magic,"
he gloated.
"It makes fighting so much more interesting." "Quick, get him!"
Bowser Jr. shouted, leaping up and launching a fireball at the downed Skulls. Skulls leapt back up as if nothing had ever happened and froze it in mid-air, just as Iggy came spinning towards him in his shell. Skulls slashed out with his other hand to blast Iggy around, pivoting around on his polished white boot to magically knock away one of Wendy's candy rings, while at the same time stretching out his other hand to magically stop another of Larry's stealthily shot magic blasts. While he was doing that, however, Junior is running. He had figured out Skull's powers. He had telekinesis with both his hands, but he had to point at something to affect it. Skull's left hand was blocking Larry's blast and his right was blocking Wendy's candy ring, so Junior's fist connected with Skull's body, smashing into the smaller Koopa as if he weighed nothing. Skulls flew across the ship, bouncing across the surface, until, with a flip that seemed somewhat floaty as if he used his magic to right himself, Skulls was back in his feet, a charming smile playing on his face as he skid backwards on his boots.
"Ah, your skills don't disappoint,"
he said, sounding relaxed.
"As I would expect from Laveria's children."
He stretched both hands out, causing countless panels of metal to break free of the hull and go flying towards the Koopalings like shurikens. Bowser Jr. spat 5 fireballs at once, smashing some of the spinning plates of metal to bits, while Roy and Morton ducked into their shells, shielding themselves from the sharp edges, and Larry teleported away just before one touched his face. Iggy leapt into the air as 6 passed beneath his feet, raining balls of emerald light down on Skulls from his wand, which Skulls casually batted away with flicks of his hands. Lemmy sent a storm of ball bombs bouncing Skulls' way, but Skulls, with a slash of his left hand, tugged Iggy's magic blasts to the right, making them collide with Lemmy's bombs and explode in midair, while with his right hand he tugged at the ground, raising huge orange turrets from the ground and having them fire at the Koopalings. The air seemed to shake as a massive orange blast ripped towards Bowser Jr., catching him off guard. His eyes widened as he realized he wouldn't have enough time to charge up a fireball strong enough to block it, until, with surprising speed, Morton threw himself in front of his brother, batted the laser away with his enchanted hymn and knocking it back towards the turret, blasting the huge gun to bits. Giving Morton a nod of thanks, he ducked under his shell, spun towards Skulls, dodging the turrets and lasers that came up in front of him. Through his limited vision from the inside of his shell, he saw Roy demolishing a turret with his fist, Lemmy raining down ball bombs which destroyed guns as efficiently as a bombardment from an airship, Wendy sending a candy ring spinning towards Skulls, which the purple star casually stopped in mid-air as he gestured at it with his right hand. Bowser Jr.'s shell spun towards Skulls, spinning fast enough to kick up sparks and shave away at the metal underneath it. With only a meter between him and Junior's whirling shell of destruction, Skulls flicked his hand upwards, knocking Junior away. As Bowser Jr. left his shell and fell on his back, skidding across the surface, he saw Larry appear on top of one of the remaining turrets, grinning at Skulls smugly.
"Heh! While you were so kindly allowing yourself to be distracting by his siblings here, you gave me free rein to place all the magic seals I needed. Lights out, sucker!" As he snapped his fingers,
light shot from countless hidden places, in front and behind and to every side of Skulls, dozens of lasers streaking towards the purple star with blinding blue light. Skull's eyes widened and he quickly slashed his finger across his forehead. A foot from him, all the lasers stopped as if they had hit an invisible wall, straining against it for a few seconds before disappearing. Skulls smiled as walked forward out of the blue haze of dissipating magic particles, throwing off his hat to reveal a third glowing eye shining orange on his forehead.
I'll admit it. Everyone, if you is every bit your mother's equal.
Skulls said calmly as he eyed them.
Perhaps you would have made it in the old Koopa Wars, after all. Nobody has forced me to reveal my true strength since I last faced your grandfather. Ah well.
He raised a hand, as if beckoning them forward.
I suppose it's time to wrap things up, now, isn't it?
Skulls raised both hands, as the part of the dome he was standing on seemed to explode with orange light, the chunks of metal reforming into orange iron tentacles which flew towards the Koopalings, as flexible as rubber. Bowser Jr. punched one out of the way as Roy blasted another with his wand. He pushed another back with a steady beam of fire, and was nearly struck by a third until it was demolished by one of Lemmy's bombs. Junior turned back towards Skulls, who was standing several meters away surrounded by glowing orange light, and prepared to launch a fireball his way, only for, with a wave of his hand, an entire section of the dome that faced the Koopalings opened up, revealing dozens of turrets that launched blast after blast at them. Junior met one laser with a fireball, only to be struck by a second and beat down by a third. The lasers thudded into his body with searing pain, and he felt the cold touch of metal as one of the tentacles wrapped around his body. Bowser Jr. looked around. His other siblings were being restrained as the metallic tentacles lifted them up. Larry, tricky as always, was teleporting around the room, only to trip as Skulls subtly shifted the height of a chunk of metal he stepped on, causing Larry to fall and lose his wand as a tentacle wrapped around his body. Without the wand, there was no teleporting out. Skulls laughed, pieces of metal orbiting around him and massive gun turrets rising into the air behind him like giant pillars as he stared at his captives with mirthful eyes.
My third eye taps into the full potential of the sun's amber eyes.
Skulls explained, smiling.
It gives my magic complete 360-degree range, essentially eliminating all my weaknesses. Even Morton Koopa Sr., who was more than twice the strength of all of you together, wasn't able to get out of this one easy. And now...
All three of his eyes turned red.
The curtain falls upon the House of Koopa. How that pathetic Lavaria would weep. I don't appreciate you speaking of my mother in that way, you imbecile.
Came a voice somewhere behind Bowser Jr. The metallic tentacles exploded with dark blue light, freeing the Koopalings. They fell solidly onto their feet as shards of metal rained down around them. Ludwig, surrounded by magical energy, hovered above them.
Wait! Ludwig!
Lemmy gasped.
Why are you here?
Ludwig chuckled.
Why, Lemmy, don't go thinking I'm spontaneously deflecting to your side or anything painfully amateurish like that. After consuming more mushrooms than I cared to admit to recover from my duel with our brother, I had a thought of punishing 7 stars for betraying me and taking control of their weapons to crush Father and the Mario brothers once and for all. While using my magic to detect the best possible way of entry, my heightened senses couldn't help but pick up some of the things you said.
Ludwig's blue eyes narrowed as he glared daggers at Skulls.
If you really hurt my mother, Skulls Fortescue, I swear by the shells of all my ancestors, you will pay.
He smiled, gazing at each of his siblings in turn.
I know you all probably hate me now, but in the face of a common foe, can the 8 Koopalings fight as one last time?
The Koopalings and Bowser Jr. looked at Ludwig. Each of them had countless reasons to despise their eldest brother. Bowser Jr. could think of dozens. The Koopa had nearly killed him less than an hour ago.
But,
Bowser Jr. thought,
Ludwig is still our brother. If he says he wants to help, genuinely wants to help us, then why should we say no?
Yes, Ludwig, Bowser Jr. said, baring his teeth in a fierce smile.
Let's put this smug-faced shell creeper back where he belongs.
The Koopalings rushed at Skulls. The purple star stretched out his hands towards them, causing tendrils of metal to stab towards them like spears and huge turrets to fire streaking beams of light. Bowser Jr. darted into his shell, turning a spear away before leaping out and launching a trio of fireballs to intercept some lasers before coming back down hard on another length of metal that was moving forward to impale Morton. Larry teleported from place to place so fast he barely registered in one place, before he all of a sudden swept his recovered wand through the air, summoning a portal that let loose a titanic wave of blue lava which crashed over countless turrets, melting them to uselessness and nearly enveloping Skulls. Before the purple star managed to stop it in place, a giant glowing wave frozen in midair like a scene from a painting. Roy was firing a storm of bullet bills from twin-bill blaster pistols, the missiles streaking through the air to take out turrets, shatter metal spears before they could hit his siblings, and nearly hit Skulls before the Koopa leapt into the air, pulling at the bullet bills with his telekinesis and sending them flying towards Lemmy. Laughing as he got caught up in the thrill of the fight, Lemmy summoned a huge yellow ball dotted with orange stars that bounced up to intercept the bullet bills as a giant shield, as Larry summoned more ball bombs that bounced across the ground, smashing more bits of metal Skulls tried to raise. Wendy's candy rings bounced from place to place, cutting through Skulls' projectiles as if they were made of butter, while Morton leapt high into the air, coming down hard to create a shockwave that smashed the few turrets still remaining. Ludwig flew around the battle, his hands moving so fast Junior could barely see them, throwing up magical barriers, launching magic blasts and thunderbolts and giant spike balls made of blue light that seemed to counter every attack Skulls threw at the siblings, so that even with his third eye Skulls was completely occupied fending them off.
Hey, Junior!
Iggy shouted.
Yeah?
Bowser Jr. asked, turning around after blasting a spear of metal.
Brace yourself,
he said, raising his wand.
I'm gonna throw you. Wah.
Bowser Jr. saw green energy covered his body as he felt himself be picked up by Iggy's magic, before his brother hurled him through the air towards Skulls. As Skulls blocked colorful blasts from multiple Koopalings at once, Junior slammed into him, knocking the purple star across the ship.
You fools!
Skulls shouted, throwing his arms backwards to stop his momentum with magic, his face contorted with rage.
This has gone on far enough. I will crush you with everything I've got. Heh. Try saying that after I'm done with you, you tastefully dressed scoundrel.
Magic sparkles showered over Skulls as Cammy swung around on her broom, grinning smugly. Skulls groaned and touched his head as his third eye closed and his others faded back to their normal blue.
My magic, you've... That's right.
Cammy smiled.
A rudimentary blocking spell, wielded with enough finesse by yours truly to cancel out even your advanced magic. I've been working towards the end of your organization for years, Mr. Fortescue. It'll be a welcome sight for my old eyes to finally see it crumble.
Skulls paused, seeming to catch his breath as he relaxed his face.
Well,
he gasped.
Well, now this is a fight.
He chuckled to himself.
I haven't had such a challenge for decades. Bring it on, Koopa family.
He unbuttoned his white coat and tossed it away, drawing twin knives from their scabbards crossed over his chest on his suit vest. Brandishing them, he exclaimed, "You'll never take me alive."
Come on, everyone!"
Bowser Jr. roared.
"Let's finish this!"
The Koopalings rushed at Skulls. Skulls leapt over Bowser Jr.'s first punch, but the prince spun in his shell, launching Skulls in the direction of Iggy. The purple star twisted in the air, aiming to slice Iggy's face with his knife, but Iggy managed to turn the blow with his spiked wristband before kicking Skulls through the air towards Ludwig. Ludwig elegantly pointed his wand at Skulls, slamming the enemy Koopa to the ground as if all the force of gravity was pressing down on him. Skulls rose, spinning his knives in his hands, as Wendy sent a candy ring spinning at him which struck the knives hard and knocked them out of his grip. Skulls smiled, seemingly mad with his excitement for battle, but before he could do anything, Morton had picked him up and threw him against the curved ground of the command ship, leaving him open to a massive fireball from Junior that blasted him through the hard metal. Smoke poured out of the hole that Bowser Jr. had blasted, a tunnel of burnt and melted metal 8 meters long. Skulls, his clothing scorched and tattered, rose with great effort at the end of it, as the Koopalings gathered at the hole's entrance.
This truly is the fight of my life, Koopalings!"
Skulls gasped, panting.
"You are truly worthy of my respect. But you will never finish me. I am Skulls Fortescue, and I will end you now."
His face contorted in pain, Skulls raised his right arm, which began to bleed as a bone stabbed through it, painfully growing longer until it protruded like a spike from Skulls' arm, the point sharpened so it was like a sword that was part of the Koopa's own body. Was Skulls insane? Was this his backup weapon? Even so. Skulls ran for the Koopalings, laughing wildly.
"Come on!"
Junior shouted.
"Let's put all of our power into this attack. Let's do it for Mom, and for the whole Koopa Kingdom."
With that, he let loose the most powerful gust of flames he could manage as his siblings blasted their wands towards Skulls. The multicolored light shone in Skulls' eyes as they collided, and the entire section of dome they were in was ripped apart in an explosion of light and color, vaporizing Skulls and his bone blade before he could reach the Koopalings. Hull plating collapsed into exposed corridors as smoke poured out of the hole and the command ship shook.
"My vengeance is complete,"
Ludwig said, closing his eyes. Bowser Jr. nodded and looked up into the sky, where the Comet Observatory continued to shine.
"Finish our fight, Dad,"
he thought.